From the All Indiana Podcast Network.
The All Indiana Podcast Network.
This is the News 8 Daily 8.
Now all the latest news.
Kylie Conway has all the news you need to know.
And more.
Please stand by.
Now, here's Wish TV's Kylie Conway.
Hi, this is Kylie Conway, and this is the News 8 Daily 8 for Thursday, January 7th. Our weather today is pretty much just an identical carbon copy of yesterday. Highs in the mid-30s and mostly cloudy, so hopefully you were able to see that peak of sunshine that we had this morning. Of course, we have a lot of news to get to today, huge happenings out of our nation's capital. For the first time this morning, President Trump fully acknowledged that his term is ending. He says there will be an orderly transition as Congress affirmed Joe Biden's victory. The statement came just moments after that certification and hours of overnight work to get that job done. Here is Senator Mitch McConnell speaking on the Senate floor overnight.
They tried to disrupt our democracy. They failed. They failed.
This assault is just that. It shows the weakness of those who've had to show through violence what their message was.
Lawmakers in both chambers stayed up all night, well into the early morning, counting the Electoral College vote. Then they reconvened after a pause during the pro-Trump rioters who made their way into the Capitol building yesterday. Sitting members of Congress took shelter under desks. The proceedings halted after many barricaded themselves inside their offices. The morning headlines reflect the destruction. The country's major publications' front pages read, "A mob storming and attacking the Capitol," among others. President-elect Joe Biden and President Trump both addressed the nation on the violence.
Threatening the safety of duly elected officials. It's not protest. It's insurrection.
We have to have peace. We have to have law and order.
President Trump released his recorded message on social media and repeated his unfounded claims of fraud. That led social media giants to silence him. Twitter froze 3 of his tweets, locked his account for 12 hours, and threatened to close his account unless he deletes the tweets. Facebook and Instagram are blocking the president for 24 hours. Several lawmakers, including some from Indiana, have backed away from their objections to Biden's win. We'll get to more on that here in a second, but I want to get you the full statement from President Trump that he released this morning after that certification. He says, "Even though I totally disagree with the outcome of the election and the facts bear me out, nevertheless, there will be an orderly transition on January 20th. I have always said we would continue our fight to ensure that only legal votes were counted. While this represents the end of the greatest first term in presidential history, it's only the beginning of our fight to make America great again." As I mentioned, the certification did last all night. The debated objections were for Georgia and Pennsylvania. Both failed. Arizona, Nevada, and Michigan had objections, but just from one house. Debate got heated, even almost coming to blows at one point when 2 representatives wanted the other remarks stricken from the record. They went face to face in the aisle, were separated by 3 other people. Republican Senator Mitt Romney says people who are upset will remain upset until they get one thing.
No congressional audit is ever going to convince these voters, particularly when the president will continue to say that the election was stolen. The best way we can show respect for the voters who are upset is by telling them the truth.
The truth, he says, is in the proven facts that the election was legitimate. As far as how Indiana delegates felt on the election objections, we have 2 Republican senators who felt that no, they do not believe states' elections were fraudulent. In the House, both of our Democratic representatives felt no and were joined by 4 Republican representatives, Larry Bucshon, Troy Hollingsworth, Greg Pence, and Victoria Spartz. 3 Republicans voted yes, Representatives Jim Baird, Jim Banks, and Jackie Walorski. That list includes one flip-flop after yesterday's riots. Republican Senator Mike Braun was expected to object to the certification, but had a change of heart. He tweeted after the riots on Capitol Hill saying, "Today's events changed things drastically. Though I will continue to push for a thorough investigation into the election irregularities many Hoosiers are concerned with, as my objection was intended. I have withdrawn that objection and will vote to get this ugly day behind us."
Is the objection in writing and signed by a member and a senator?
Mr. President, prior to the actions and events of today, we did, but following the events of today, it appears that some senators have withdrawn their objection.
Several other lawmakers flipped as well, including 2 from Tennessee and 1 from Wisconsin. Senator Steve Daines from Montana also tweeted, "This was a sad day for our country." And he went on to say that we must have a peaceful and orderly transition of power. Republican Senator Kelly Loeffler, who lost in Georgia's runoff election to Raphael Warnock, spoke on the floor. You're going to hear first from her, then from Republican Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma.
The events that have transpired today have forced me to reconsider, and I cannot now in good conscience object to the certification of these electors. The violence, the lawlessness, and siege of the halls of Congress are abhorrent and stand as a direct attack on the very institution my objection was intended to protect, the sanctity of the American democratic process.
Obviously, the commission that we have asked for is not going to happen at this point, and I understand that. And we're headed towards the certification of Joe Biden to be the president of the United States. And we will work together in this body to be able to set a peaceful example for the days ahead.
7 senators still voted to hold up the objections of Pennsylvania's electoral votes. One of President Trump's most vocal supporters in Congress delivered a forceful break. Senator Lindsey Graham spoke on the floor of the Senate overnight, saying repeatedly, enough is enough.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are lawfully elected and will become the president and the vice president of the United States on January the 20th.
Graham says he prayed Joe Biden would lose, but that Biden won and is the legitimate president of the United States. Graham's comments prompted applause on the Senate floor. And some lawmakers are calling for constitutional action to remove the president from power. Democratic members of the House Judiciary Committee are calling on Mike Pence to invoke the 25th Amendment. In a letter to Pence, committee members say that President Trump's actions yesterday revealed he is not mentally sound. The letter goes on to say the president is unwilling to protect democracy and carry out the duties of the office. Under the amendment, a vice president and a majority of the president's cabinet have the power to declare the president unfit for office. That would lead to a president's removal, putting a vice president in charge. And the Trump administration is seeing staffers calling it quits after the chaos. CNN reports that Trump's deputy national security advisor, Matt Pottinger, is resigning after seeing the president's response to the violence. Deputy White House Press Secretary Sarah Matthews and the First Lady's Chief of Staff, Stephanie Grisham, are also leaving. CNN is reporting that top aides like National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien and Deputy Chief of Staff Chris Liddell are also considering resigning this morning. D.C.'s mayor and police chief are taking a strong stance on the violence. 4 people died following the breach on Capitol Hill. In a news conference late last night, Washington, D.C. Police Chief Robert Conti said a woman was shot and killed by U.S. Capitol Police. 3 others died during medical emergencies. Police say the woman was shot yesterday when the mob tried to break through a barricaded door in the Capitol, where police were armed on the other side. She was taken to the hospital and died. Police also witnessed both law enforcement and Trump supporters deploying tear gas and pepper spray before it was cleared by law enforcement yesterday evening. D.C.'s chief of police says this kind of behavior will not be tolerated.
Today's events were not representation of peaceful protests. Today, what we witnessed was unlawful, riotous behavior. And people that come to our city engaged in unlawful behavior will be held accountable.
D.C. police officials also say 2 pipe bombs were recovered, one outside the Democratic National Committee and one outside the Republican National Committee. D.C.'s mayor also talked overnight. She called the behavior unpatriotic and unlawful. And local police do say they arrested more than 50 people. 4 are accused of carrying guns without a license. 1 was for a prohibited weapon. 47 are curfew violations. We don't know yet a full count of arrests from all agencies combined. Washington is under a public emergency for the next 2 weeks. Mayor Muriel Bowser announced the 15-day extension late last night, keeping people off the streets from 6 each evening to 6 the next morning until the day after Biden's inauguration. And what we saw in Washington is drawing strong emotional reaction here in Indiana. We're hearing a lot of disbelief on the streets. News 8's Sierra Hignite met with people grappling with the scenes that unfolded.
Disgust, anger, sadness.
It's devastating.
People in Indianapolis shocked as they watch protesters break down barriers and make entry into the U.S. Capitol, wreaking havoc in what is supposed to be one of the most secure buildings in the country.
Democracy is literally breaking at the seams.
Many asking the question, why?
What makes you think that's going to do anything? Like, what is that supposed to change?
While others wonder, when will it be enough?
There has been no evidence of widespread election fraud, voter fraud, enough to turn the election, and these people just aren't listening.
Just to see that a woman has died, people are hurt, seeing people cry, it hurts.
As they watched the police response, not only after people gained access to the Capitol, but when they were out past the 6 o'clock curfew, they can't help but remember crowds here in Indianapolis being hit with rubber bullets, tear gassed, and violently pushed during the Black Lives Matter protests.
We were treated with such disgust, and they were treated with a little bit more care to them being human beings.
It seems that it's being treated like, oh, you know, that's their right, even though, like, they're hurting people and killing people as well.
Some people that spoke with News 8 felt that President Trump's response to the rioters did not condemn their behavior, but in their opinion, applauded it. Reporting in Indianapolis, I'm Sierra Hignite, Wish TV, wishtv.com, and follow us on Facebook.
All 4 living former presidents are condemning the mob of rioters that stormed the U.S. Capitol. Barack Obama, George W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and Jimmy Carter released strongly worded statements about moving the country forward. Obama writes that he's happy to see members of the GOP speaking out. His words, "We need more leaders like these right now and in the days, weeks, and months ahead as President-elect Biden works to restore a common purpose to our politics." Bush called it a sickening and heartbreaking sight, saying, "To those who are disappointed in the results of the election, our country is more important than the politics of the moment. Let the officials elected by the people fulfill their duties and represent our voices in peace and safety." Clinton took to Twitter writing, "We must reject today's violence, turn the page, and move forward together, honoring our Constitution, remaining committed to a government of the people, by the people, and for the people." Carter called the violence troubling. "Having observed elections in troubled democracies worldwide, I know that we the people can unite to walk back from this precipice to peacefully uphold the laws of our nation, and we must." And one of the most outspoken pro athletes in our area here has strong words about what happened at the Capitol. Malcolm Brogdon led all Pacers in scoring in a win last night against Houston. Then, in his post-game comments, delivered a very specific view of the police response to the chaos there in Washington.
We have to be honest in this country. I think people have to call a spade, and that's what this is. It's disgusting.
Brogdon is very active on issues of race and social justice. He helped lead a large voter registration push in the summer leading up to the 2020 elections. Late-night talk show hosts largely dropped the jokes for the night and tried to offer some perspective. James Corden opened his show with a long message about how to move forward after a chaotic day.
And I got to thinking, I thought, I hope when the dust settles and we reflect on what's happened on this awful day, that we still have hope. Because I think if there is one thing we can have after the last month in this country, it's hope.
Jimmy Fallon also took a far more serious tone than usual, saying what we saw was not American.
Today was not patriotism. Today was terrorism. I thought that President-elect President Biden said it best when he said, we have to step up.
And several of the world's most powerful leaders are delivering strong messages as well. Some are holding President Trump personally responsible. Most say something like, the U.S. is a model of democracy and the breach of the Capitol is unbelievable and sad. Others demand Trump recognize Biden's win, which he did this morning after many of these statements were released. But leaders in Canada, New Zealand, and Germany condemned the violence and encouraged proper democracy. Sweden, Ireland, and Norway blamed Trump and the Republican representatives who follow him. The Irish Minister of Foreign Affairs wrote that he's shocked and sad. We must call this out for what it is, a deliberate assault on democracy by a sitting president and his supporters, attempting to overturn a free and fair election. The world is watching. We hope for restoration of calm. It's not all terror and condemnation, though. The Australian Prime Minister had this to say.
And it's heartbreaking to see what's happening there. This is one of the world's greatest democracies, and it remains so. because of its forbearance and its persistence and the principles and values upon which the nation was established, and I have no doubt that that will prevail.
The president of the European Commission also is looking ahead, saying she's looking forward to working with Joe Biden. None of the world leaders called into question the reason for the riots, a claim that America's election was unfair. And we have yet to hear from Russia, as responses are still coming in. Other countries, including China and Turkey, are calling their citizens living in America to stay out of it and remain vigilant. Now to news outside of our nation's capital. Here in Indiana, opening up vaccines to more people. Starting tomorrow, anyone 80 or older can get a first dose of a COVID-19 vaccine. More than half of Indiana's pandemic deaths have been people in that age group. The head of the Marion County Health Department explains the goal here.
This deliberate plan of making vaccine available next to the populations of 80 and older, then 70 and older, and then 60 and older is the right approach because it targets the population that is most likely to be hospitalized due to COVID-19 or die.
The state hopes to vaccinate 300,000 people by the end of the month through 55 hospitals and 91 local health departments. We have all the information on how to register for the vaccine on our website, wishtv.com. 12 more counties in the state are now in the highest risk level of coronavirus spread. 57 of Indiana's 92 counties are now shown in red on the Department of Health's scoring map. You can find that online. Hamilton County is one of the newly added communities. Under red, Hamilton County's restrictions will limit social gatherings to 25 people. Indoor dining is allowed, but officials encourage curbside pickup. Sporting events will be limited to just players, coaches, and parents. The Hamilton County Health Department is asking school officials to review and reevaluate plans.
This is not a one-size-fits-all either. You know, Carmel Clay schools are much different than Hamilton Heights schools. And, you know, we want to work with them to help do what's right for each school and each school district.
Christian Walker says he hopes red is a red flag to the community to work together and adhere to safe practices. The CDC says it's identified 52 cases of a coronavirus variant. According to the agency, 26 of those cases are in California, another 22 in Florida. Others are in Colorado, Georgia, and New York. The CDC says the numbers are not a complete count, just those found through lab samples. And they're now trying to track the cases because the variant appears to be more contagious. And the center is also delivering new information about allergic reactions from the vaccines. The agency reports 29 severe reactions in the first 1.9 million vaccinations. The CDC says all of the severe reactions happened within minutes. 17 of the people had a history of allergies, and that all known patients have recovered. Officials say people with general allergies shouldn't be concerned, but might want to consult a healthcare provider before getting their shots. There is a new move that would allow the state to have some control over the police department in Indianapolis. 2 Indiana state senators have filed a measure that would create a governor-appointed commission to run IMPD. One of those lawmakers is Republican State Senator Jack Sandlin. He says he introduced the bill after seeing the destruction caused by last summer's riots. Under the proposal, the board would assign or appoint a chief of police. That police chief would then answer to the Board of Police Commissioners. The proposed legislation has not been assigned to a committee yet. And this is pretty cool here. Arizona's Grand Canyon may have met its match, and it's not even on this planet. NASA released a photo of a canyon on Mars, and it is gigantic. Scientists determined it is the largest canyon in our solar system. It stretches over 2,500 miles across the Martian equator and is 7 miles deep. According to NASA, if this crater was on Earth, this valley would span from New York City to San Francisco. Scientists at the University of Arizona took the image with a special camera called a HiRISE. It is the most powerful camera ever sent to another planet. All right, now to business headlines. The federal government has reportedly paid about 2/3 of the money set aside for the second round of coronavirus stimulus checks in just 1 week. The Treasury Department had distributed more than $112 billion worth of the $600 payments since they started going out last week. And new jobless claims likely broke back above 800,000 at the turn of the new year as the labor market struggled to regain traction amid the ongoing pandemic. The labor market saw a small reprieve last week as jobless claims ticked below 800,000, that level for the first time since November. However, some economists attributed the brief improvement to a quirk in adjusting for seasonality factors around the holiday. Big tech stocks fell sharply as Democratic gains in Georgia stoked fears that the feds could tighten regulations on the industry's dominant players. Wall Street's betting that the high flyers from 2020 could be hit with fines, higher taxes, and even forced to break up. Facebook was the biggest loser, down almost 3%. And stocks set new records, though, while the U.S. Capitol was being stormed. Banks rallied on expectations of bigger stimulus from a Democrat-run Washington, and banks make fees from PPP and other loans. Lego Education announced a new product to ensure hands-on STEAM learning. That is science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, STEAM acronym there. The Brick Motion is a way for kids stuck at school with remote learning to be able to work with hands-on learning toys. So you can use these Legos to make motion and create this kind of engineering learning tool. It's pretty cool. And finally, now to sports. The schedule for IndyCar's St. Petersburg race is shifting from March to April. Officials say the change is related to the pandemic. The new dates are April 23rd through the 25th. The race usually kicks off the IndyCar season. Instead, the Honda Indy Grand Prix of Alabama will now start the season. Driver Simon Pagenaud tweeted his excitement for the St. Petersburg race with one question: is it April yet? He went on to say, in the meantime, excited to tackle testing and prepare for the most exciting season of IndyCar yet. Several local neighborhoods here in Indy will get a front porch parade today. A series of Colts caravans will wind through neighborhoods in Greenwood starting at 4 this afternoon. Kicks off at Main Street and Market Plaza, lasts until 5:30. Then the caravan goes up to Irvington, starting at the Irvington Plaza. That parade in Irvington goes from 6 to 7:30. And this year, to the Colts now, Jacoby Brissett is handling a quarterback demotion for better than most in the league, launching himself into a new role. Just last year, he started 15 games for the Colts. News 8's Olivia Ray found out when the going gets tough, Brissett gets going.
You have to give Jacoby a lot of credit. He's become a spark the last 2 weeks, and it's a credit to his commitment to team.
It would have been easy for the guy who lost his starting job to keep his head down and move on. But Jacoby Brissett has done quite the opposite this season.
He's the backup quarterback, but he still doesn't act like a backup quarterback.
I always think like I'm a starter. That's all I've known how to do. So
that opportunity came in the form of a short yardage package that's been insanely successful as Brissett QB sneaks to convert for nearly every crucial first down and even scoring several touchdowns. But honestly, the most impressive part of his season is the commitment he's kept to this Colts community.
I've been a great teammate as my first priority, in no matter what role I am, either if I'm starting or not starting. I take that very serious, and I think that's what it is.
Number 7 has remained a leader in the locker room, and his work far extends the playing field. Brissett took action in social justice initiatives this summer, helping the entire Colts roster register to vote.
We understand that we have to use our platform not only individually but collectively.
And when Indianapolis Public Schools started teaching remotely, he donated funds for internet hotspots for students around the city. Plus, Brissett has never missed a Colts Community Monday event. But his work doesn't stop in Indy. Brissett also launched community bike rides in his hometown to encourage interaction between the community and local law enforcement.
A lot of people forget where they come from, and Jacoby is not a person that doesn't forget where he came from, and I just hopefully he can continue to do that.
We all know we're not going to save everybody, but you just hope that it's one, and then that one that comes back, and then that other one comes. So it's just a cycle of just doing good for good, honestly, and that's what I do it for.
And for the differences he's made with his platform, the Colts have nominated him as their 2020 Walter Payton Man of the Year.
I mean, in the NFL circles, when you win this award, it's about as good as it can get. And Jacoby's incredibly deserving, the way he represents himself in the horseshoe.
Bravo, Brissett.
This has been your News 8 Daily. For Wish TV, I'm Kylie Conway. Online at wishtv.com and follow us on Facebook when you search Wish TV.
Check out more podcasts from the All Indiana Podcast Network now at allindianapodcastnetwork.com. allindianapodcastnetwork.com.